and because she can be touched by Magneto, which you can't blame a woman for wanting to have that. But once she has it, she realizes, and she says, verbally, she kisses him and she says, "Thanks for the dance, sugar. But Remy was right. Some things are deeper than skin." And that sums it up in a nutshell. True love is deeper than that.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Yeah, Lenore. The last time we met was at there was a Netflix event. I think it was like a kind of like a Christmas holiday party,
Oh, yeah.
and you were with Byron.
Right?
Yes. So that was the last time
Oh
I
my
saw you.
gosh.
Yeah.
And that would have been, well, a year ago, probably.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. It's
2 years ago or a year ago.
could be 2 years ago. Yeah.
Right. So it was
Yeah.
before the show came out.
And then you had the rogue stuff. I'm like, yeah. You wear your rogue pride like
I
loudly.
do.
Yeah.
I do. I'm gonna show you something on that note. I usually wear these big red uh X-Men earrings. I probably had them on.
Yeah.
And I have a jacket that I got at Orlando at Universal Studios that is a Captain America jacket. And I bought it because I knew what was going to happen in season one. And I was like, I want to have this jacket and be wearing it. So I was wearing it to a bunch of different Comic Cons. And I met an artist, Roger San. And I ended up re-meeting him again recently at another Comic Con. And he had this poster that he had made. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. That is awesome.
So he said I inspired him to make this poster because she's wearing my big X-Men
I,
ring
s- I see
earrings,
that.
and
Yeah.
she's got the Captain America jacket on, like I did, and it says freedom. I choose my own power.
Yeah.
I
Okay, now
love that,
I have to get that poster now. It looks cool.
right?
Yeah.
I'll sign it for you if I can get it to you, or
Yeah,
you can get
somehow,
it.
some way.
Yes, yes.
Okay. You have a book coming out,
I have a book.
and and so I was able to like check out like the like I'm trying to get the I got the copy just like right
Yeah,
before this interview, so I'm just trying to like read as much as I can.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
it's
Yeah,
crazy your story. Just like there's so much happening.
I know, right? And
Yeah,
that's just half my life.
yeah, and
That just
so
goes up to like 97.
yeah. And so like there's so much I don't know like when you do a lot of conventions, you do a lot of interviews. So I was just curious reading this, how much of it do you talk about because there's some things I'm like, "Oh my god, I think you went on a date with Keanu Reeves, right?"
Yeah.
Yeah. And and then there's so much like the Steven Spielberg stuff. So we can talk about that. But yeah, I guess let's talk about the Keanu Reeves things
I
first.
know. Keanu and Lou Gossett Jr. Lou Gossett
Yeah.
Jr. as well. Andy Gibb, who is the younger brother of the Bee Gees. I mean, yeah, I've had a life. I've lived. And when you're in your 20s, you've got a lot of energy there and a lot of sexual energy there. And I was never really afraid. I mean, I played Marilyn Monroe at the age of 19. Um, this great sex goddess. And so that was the energy and that was the aura that I had. And wherever I went, I mean, people were very much attracted to me. And I wasn't afraid to, follow my instincts and go down adventures with different people and see where it ended. I think I was always looking for love, though. I
Hmm.
was really looking for love and to belong. And I think so many young people today are still doing that. We just want to be appreciated. We need reassurance that we're okay. And I'm no different than anybody else in that way. As a in my 20s, even into my 30s, my early 30s, I was kind of always looking for validation. that I was okay.
Yeah, and yeah, just the different stories, like your love for, I think your first time visiting Disneyland. I think I was like reading
Yeah.
parts of that, and it's like that whole thing. Now you're doing X-Men as part of the Disney world, and I guess like yeah, what's your feelings on that from that journey? Just everything just coming to fruition.
Well, being like the book is a lot. I mean, it's about my origin story, right?
Yeah.
So my origin story started in Australia. So when people say to me, "Wow, I love your southern accent. So you're from down south, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from really far down south. I'm from Australia. You can't get much more south than there." Um, but as a little girl, we used to watch The Wonderful World of Disney I think it was Sunday nights. It was either Sunday night or Saturday night, and my mom and dad and I would watch it together on our little black and white television. And it was my favorite show, and I had such a great imagination, and I loved magic and mystery and all those kinds of things. So my big dream was to go to Disneyland someday. And so when my parents decided to move to Canada when I was 8, it was thrilling that they decided to sail over by ship. We went by a cruise ship for a month. It took us a month to get from Australia all the way over to Canada, and then we actually got back on the ship and went down to LA, got out in LA so that I could go to Disneyland, and that was like a dream come true. I'll never forget that. And it truly is a happy place. And for kids, it conjures up all of our incredible dreams from all of the beautiful movies and books and things that come out of Disney. So, that was a dream come true for me. And then to think that years later, here I am now working for Disney and playing a superhero that helps inspire other kids that it's okay to be different, and that, hey, we all have our own superhero qualities and our own superpowers. What are they? That is a moment of fulfillment for me. It's like coming full circle.
Oh yeah, and just because okay, the story of the X-Men, it's about fighting for what's right and just protecting those that can't defend themselves, and because when you're younger, like a kid, you've experienced like injustice,
Hmm.
and so that kind of helped mold just the way
Yeah,
that you do things now,
yeah,
and yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it was like seeing injustice done to others that really got me. In the book, as you know, I talk about my early childhood in Australia, going back and forth between Sydney, the big city, taking ballet classes and doing all that kind of stuff in the big city, and then going to the country, to rural Australia, what we call the bush, with my grandmother, and spending time with my grandmother in the bush. And one of her friends at that time was an older Indigenous lady named Mrs. Ping, who had a house full of young kids who she was rearing because their mothers had abandoned them. And those kids became my first friends, really, because I was an only child. And so seeing the way Mrs. Ping was treated by other white people in the area, they would go by her house and throw garbage out around her house and think nothing of it. And I went to my grandmother at one point. I said, do people do this? Why are they throwing garbage at Mrs. Ping's house? And my grandmother said, well, because there is this thing called racism, which is a terrible thing. And some people incorrectly believe that because of one's skin color, it depends, that determines how important somebody is. So if somebody has a darker skin color, they're not as important as white people. And I said, well, that must be very painful and hurtful for Mrs. Ping. And my grandma said, yes, it is. And I said, yeah, that's a terrible thing. And that stayed with me. So that years later, I mean, I've always been somebody like Rogue, who sticks up for the quote unquote underdog, for anybody who is being picked on or bullied or made fun of by someone else. I can't stand that. So years later, when I went into politics, and an incredible woman, Dr. Ingrid Waldron, came to me and told me about this thing called environmental racism, which is the disproportionate number of toxic dumps, waste sites, landfills, and corporate polluters that are placed on or beside racialized communities. That's what environmental racism is. And that has an effect on the health outcomes of that community. I jumped at the opportunity to try and do something about that, and I introduced a private members bill called an Act to Address Environmental Racism. I did that as a member of the Legislative Assembly in Nova Scotia in 2015. And then in 2020, I introduced it federally when I was a member of parliament. And that bill just passed this past summer. And it's called, yeah, thank you. It's called a national strategy respecting environmental racism and environmental justice. So yeah, and that took me 10 years. That took 10 years
Wow.
to get that bill, but we got it. We did it.
Yeah. So I guess that plays with your personality of being stubborn and just keep on going and not giving
You
up.
have. Yeah.
And yeah, it's you're oh my you're such a inspiration. Like,
Thank you. Oh.
uh,
Well,
so
I care so much about people,
yeah.
and I care that humanity is suffering, that we're all suffering, and that so many people they just want to get along. They just want to be happy. They just want their children to be happy. They need a roof over their heads, food on the table. They need to know that their kids are going to be safe, and that we treat everybody with kindness and respect and love, and that you're allowed to live and let live. And I think that there's so much antagonism and toxicity and negativity out there in the world where people are trying to attack other people and try to bring them down instead of just minding their own business and looking after their own side of the street. So,
Mhm.
the more that I can get out there and spread positive inspiration, then the better. I feel like I'm doing my job.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, like for me, sometimes like, when the negativity just keeps happening, sometimes I feel like, oh man, this is like too much. So
Yeah.
how do you go about where like, even though it happens, like you're like, I still have to do this and I just can't stop. Like I have to just keep on going.
Yeah, I meditate actually. I do meditation, and I do a lot of positive reinforcement. And I believe that we need to sort of pull ourselves out of that whole maelstrom and just focus on our breath and on being here in the moment and being grateful and appreciative for the life that we have, and just not get sucked into the drama, because it's so easy to go down those rabbit holes, especially online. And so I think in order for us to stay healthy mentally and emotionally and spiritually, we need to be able to pull ourselves out of that and just sit with ourselves and do almost a mental bath, a mental and emotional bath to cleanse ourselves of all that negativity. And try to feel like not to get overwhelmed by it, because yeah, it is a lot. And so all we can do is what we have today. What can I do for this one day to help myself and to help others and to try and make the world a better place? And that's it, one day at a time. In the book, I talk about getting sober as well. And that is a motto in AA and other 12-step groups, is one day at a time. And there's a reason for that, because it's easier if we look at life just from today instead of like the next 50 years of my life or whatever.
Oh yeah, just yeah, taking it easy, yeah.
Yes.
Uh so
Once,
okay. The
yeah.
one thing that really stood out for me in this the story with you meeting Steven Spielberg, and there's a part where you're trying to get audition or just meeting to try to get the role in Temple of Doom. So you have to tell me more
Yeah.
about that. And
Wow. Well, it was fascinating. I had come to Los Angeles. I was only 20. I just played Marilyn Monroe in a rock opera on the life of Marilyn Monroe. So I had still pictures from that show. And I'd also just done a movie called The Black Mirror about these women in prison. And so I had a reel of some of the scenes from that movie, and I had these still pictures from me playing Marilyn Monroe. And I came to LA with my then agent from Toronto, and we were taking meetings and trying to see what I if I could fit into the scene here in Los Angeles. And I guess we had shown our pictures and the reel to some casting people who must have then contacted Steven Spielberg, who was looking for someone who could play a cabaret singer, sexy kind of cabaret singer in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And so we were sitting at the Polo Lounge having, afternoon cocktails in their afternoon cocktail hour. And I hear my name called over the loudspeaker or whatever, that to pick up a phone at your booth. Ms. Zann, there's a phone call for you. And we picked up the phone, and it was the roommate of my agent's friend saying, "Hey, Steven Spielberg's office just called and they want to meet Lenore." And we were like, we thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He was serious. And they wanted to meet me that afternoon. So we just hightailed it over to the lot. And I went up the stairs and ran into Mel Gibson coming down. And Sly Stallone was coming out of the office room after a meeting. And I was just like amazed, not starstruck, but just wow, this is how it all happens. And then I spent about a good hour with Steven Spielberg chatting about things and life and my work so far. I mean, I was only 20, showed him the pictures of me as Marilyn and stuff like that. He'd already seen the reel, which is why he wanted to meet me. And I didn't get the part, but I noticed that Kate Capshaw was wearing a red sequin dress in those scenes, which was the same kind of dress that I'd been wearing in those pictures, what I thought was interesting. But I didn't get that part. And then she ended up marrying him. But he did then tell these other casting directors about me. And then they had me go to New York and do a screen test for a TV series called Love Sydney, which I got. And then it was taken away at the 11th hour because they had to rewrite the script, which I talk about in the book as well.
so we could say that you were the inspiration for the Kate's look in Indiana
Maybe,
Jones.
maybe, who
Maybe,
knows?
maybe. Who knows? Yeah. And okay, with the there's so yeah. I don't know if you ever get starstruck at all because you've been doing this since forever. So it's like I feel like you're like yeah, this is nothing. This is my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing when, I've been doing it since I was, yeah, like 19, um, and doing movies and TV and stuff since I was 20. So I do take it all in my stride. I don't tend to get starstruck by anybody. They're just people, movie stars and directors. They're just people. We're all equal. And I think that having that attitude helps me also navigate through that world so that I'm not like overwhelmed and overcome and feel like, oh, who the hell am I? What am I doing here? I mean, I'm an actor and now a writer. And I just appreciate people and I appreciate their stories. And again, if I treat everybody with respect, hopefully they'll treat me that way. And on we go.
Oh yeah, and there's there's like a paragraph where you talk about how you can find talent, and then also how you get to work with them later on, or you see someone performing, and then it's like, oh, we're working together. Like for example,
Right.
Cal. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, that was interesting because I was at a Comic-Con in Wyoming recently. It was the Stan Lee SuperCon, and I was on a panel and we were talking about things. And I mentioned at that panel that when I was 12, my parents took me over to see a musical over in Prince Edward Island, which is another province in East Coast Canada, close to Nova Scotia, where we had moved. And it was a rock opera on the life. It was a rock opera about Hamlet, the musical, the Shakespearean play Hamlet. So it was a musical about Hamlet, and the lead actor playing Hamlet was Cal Dodd. And I remember going to see that show and looking up at the stage and watching them. And Beverly D'Angelo was in it. She played Ophelia. And it was fantastic. And there was a black actor playing King Claudius called Rudy Webb, and he was brilliant. In the end, a few years later, but that was when I decided I wanted to be an actor. That was when I went, this is what I want to do. And I had never even had voice lessons before, let alone acting lessons. But I looked at them and I went, this is what I want to do. It thrilled me. And then, it wasn't that much longer when I was 20, a few years later, that I was doing Hey Marilyn, which was written by the same author who did Rockabye Hamlet, or the musical of Hamlet. And the same black actor, Rudy Webb, became one of my dear, dear friends. And he played the narrator in our show about Marilyn Monroe. And then 10 years later, I was doing X-Men the first time around with Cal Dodd playing Wolverine. So it's amazing how these things do. Sometimes they come full circle, it's really exciting. I love that when life happens that way.
Oh yeah, and now with the X-Men '97, and then hopefully after the MCU, we get like live action X-Men somehow. So like it just the world of X-Men is always exciting. It never stops, and you're in it. You're like seeing everything, and then so like so how
I am the good, the bad, and the ugly.
yeah. So what is it like just being in it, like cuz second season's coming up. I'm pretty sure you're I don't know if you started
I
anything
have,
yet with that. Okay.
yeah.
And
I've been
what
recording.
so what can you tell us about that without like spoilers, or without Disney and Marvel be like, Lenore, watch yourself."
You know, um, all I'll say is that whenever I get the scripts, just like in the first season, I can't stop reading them until I get to the end of each script. That's a really good sign. Because sometimes you'll get a script and you'll read a part of it and then you put it down and you go do something and then you come back and you're like, oh yeah, I got to finish reading that. Not with these scripts. These ones are like, they hook me right from the beginning until the end. And if they hook me, I think they're going to hook the fans. And my character is continuing on her, what I call the hero's journey. And a hero's journey is where you have something in your mind, you have a vision, and you are adamant that you want to get to the place that will take you, and you're willing to do anything to get there. And that's basically how Rogue is for season 2. And it's a thrill a minute, and you'll be on the edge of your seats again. And I can't wait for season 2 to come out, which is probably going to be about a year. But
Yeah.
it's been wonderful getting in the booth and recording and getting to know the cast and meeting up at all these Comic Cons. We're a family. We check in on each other. We have like a little chat group and we talk about what happened at the last con, or this, or that, or the other thing. It's so nice. I feel like I belong. Yeah, I feel like I have a family. It's really nice.
Yeah, and I have to ask, because season one of the '97, what happened to spoiler alert Gambit, and
Mhm.
then we have Deadpool and Wolverine, kind of like it's like a renaissance of Gambit, and so I don't. What are your thoughts on just people's love for Gambit, and also Rogue's love for Gambit too?
Well, I like to say I'm the original Romy. Right? You know how there's all these Romies now? They love Gambit, Remy and Rogue together. Well, I think I'm the original one. I think that Remy Gambit is her soulmate, is Rogue's soulmate. And in season 1, when in episode 5, when I have that dance with Magneto, and I've told Remy that I've decided I'm going to go with Magneto to try and create a better world for mutants. And because she can be touched by Magneto, which you can't blame a woman for wanting to have that. But once she has it, she realizes, and she says verbally, she kisses him and she says, "Thanks for the dance, sugar. But Remy was right. Some things are deeper than skin." And that sums it up in a nutshell. True love is deeper than that. And the things that matter are deeper than skin. And again, that also ties back to my childhood where I realized, yeah, what's all this onus on skin color and skin and the way somebody appears? That's not important. What is important is what's happening on the inside. And I was able to suggest that line at that moment in the booth. There was something else that had been written, and I asked Bo DeMeo and our director, Meredith, if I could try something else. And they said, sure, go ahead. And that's what I came up with. Thanks for the dance, sugar. But Remy was right. Some things are deeper than skin. And luckily, they kept it in, and I'm really thrilled that they did.
Wow, that's I think that's a great way to end the interview with that. Just like it's like a beginning, middle, end. And I just want
Right.
to say, Lenore, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks, for taking the time.
Oh, it's a
And
pleasure to
yeah,
meet you again and see you.
yeah.
What city are you in?
LA area. So yeah,
Okay, all
yeah.
right, good. Well, hopefully I'll get to see you again sometime at an event somewhere.
Hopefully, yeah. Whatever event. I don't know how. If you get you get invited to a lot of stuff. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Do you do Netflix
But
stuff?
yeah, some Netflix stuff, and then etc. And yeah, I don't know. Just a lot of just movie screenings for me because I
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I love movies too. So I'm actually going off to do a new series, a new live action series that's shooting in New Brunswick for sci-fi.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah. And keep an eye out for that. I've got a small role, but it's a recurring role, and it's a new series that Sci-Fi is going to be doing, shooting in New Brunswick. So
So you can't say the name yet.
I can't say the name yet, but I can say the name of a movie that I've got coming out, which is The Legend of the White Dragon with Jason
Yes.
David.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
small part
That
in that too.
yeah, because that one is the Jason David Frank's like last film, right? And
That's right.
so
Yes,
once
and my friend Aaron Schenke, he wrote it and directed it. And so I'm in that, and also in another movie that Aaron has written and directed that's an animated feature film, a musical for kids called Space Bears. And that's coming out next year. So that's all within the next year. Those movies are going to be coming out.
and then
And
that
then the
one,
new series,
yeah, and then that one, this the space. What is it?
Space Bears.
Space Bears. You get to sing.
Yes, I get to
Okay.
sing. I'm a singer too. Who knew?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
found that out when I was 15 in grade 10 when I got cast as one of the two leads in the school musical. And we had mom and dad had no idea that I could sing.
Oh
I'd been
yeah.
practicing singing to the cows in the fields and stuff for the last few years.
Oh
So,
yeah. That's
yeah.
awesome. I
Yeah.
can't wait. Yeah, if I don't get to meet you, I'll get to see you on the screen in the
Okay.
future. So yeah.
Well, come see The Legend of the White Dragon when it's out. See if you can come to the premiere whenever it's going to be.
I'll find a way.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Lenore. It's been a pleasure, and have a
Nice.
great rest of your day.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Yeah. All right. See
Bye.
ya. Bye.
Bye, sugar.
I love it.